Creating good encounters is perhaps the most technically difficult thing about being a dungeon master. If you're not careful, you can accidentally womp your players, or they can womp you in a situation in which you don't want to be womped. Or the worst thing of all could happen, where you plan something and you play through it and it's boring. So in the name of avoiding boring encounters and hopefully providing some new ways to balance encounters, let's talk about 3 necessary things that you need to do in your encounter plan. First of all, plan escalation. The party stumbles across monsters, they start fighting. They fight until everyone's dead. That's great, we're all happy. But where's the drama? Where's the escalation? What went wrong? You gotta plan for it. It doesn't just happen naturally. Sometimes it does, because players are sometimes players are bad at doing things. And that's fun, that causes escalation. But in general, they're just gonna attack, they're gonna cast their spells, and the monsters are going to do the same. What you can do instead of just following that simple pattern is plan for things to ramp up. What does this mean? It means monsters getting new abilities as they lose health. It means the place in which they're fighting begins to break down, collapse, tremble, spew lava. It means new minions begin to arrive, knocking at the door. They're coming. It means saving the strong abilities that your monsters already have until late in the fight, so they're that much more devastating when they hit. That's a small escalation, but saving, for instance, a breath weapon attack because you know it's going to be difficult to recharge until it's going to be the most devastating, that's a perfectly raw, natural escalation that's super easy to achieve and makes the combat so much more tense. Secondly, and it came up a little bit in escalation, but we're going to talk about it more now, environment. Don't be throwing your combats into blank rooms and empty cellars. No Final Destination style fights, okay? We need to have interesting environments. You need high ground. I mean, the reason we like that fight in Star Wars is not just because of the sick triple backflip gainer, or the lost limbs, or the truly heart-wrenching delivery of the lines.
You underestimate my power!
It was the lava, and it was
I have the high ground!
The high ground. Creating environmental hazards and environmental opportunities is going to let your players, instead of just run up and attack, question whether they should be running to the high ground, whether they should try to get on top of a pillar, whether they should hide behind a safe wall, whether they should try to force the enemy into the hazard. It gives so many more options for combat instead of just casting the most damage spell and dealing attacks. And finally, our third tip is have a different win condition. A win condition is whatever ends combat. For most combats, it means slaying the monster. But if you change that up and you give a different objective to the combat, like reaching a goal first, or figuring out a puzzle first, or hitting the right spot on the monster, and you have to find out how to hit each spot on the monster. Instead of just aiming for damage, again, what you're doing is diversifying actions throughout combat, so players are incentivized to not just attack as normal. They're incentivized to try new things, think creatively. And that's fun. You don't need to do all 3 of these things in every combat, but sprinkling in these 3 things in any combination, all combinations, at least having one of the 3 in every combat is going to make your encounters far more interesting.